Italianata Brava. I love you and I devote to you eternally, Italianata Brava. It is a Tuesday. It's Wednesday. Good morning. And afternoon to those who decide that noon is afternoon and not morning. Welcoming in Marguerite v. Imbert. Please do correct me on how to pronounce your last name because I do want to say it correctly. Blessed lit leader of the next gen.
Hi.
Hello, my darling. Can you tell? Okay, let the cult community hear clearly how to pronounce your name correctly, because I feel like I slaughtered it, and not a cool slaughter, like a bad slaughter.
Marguerite Imbert. I think you did it right. Did you say cult community?
My cult community.
Are you cult? You have like so many new words you're inventing over there.
Oh, my darling. You know, I feel like I'm like really leaning into your good juju on like that. You're in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's cloudy here today, and it's like a slight chill in the air, and I'm drinking hot tea, so it's like all the vibes are coming.
So fun.
I love it.
And you're in New York?
No, my darling. I was raised in Jersey, and then I moved to New York and like pretended I never knew Jersey, but like she's come back. You know how the past haunts you.
Oh yeah.
So now I've been in California for 7 years, reinventing myself every month.
Okay, amazing. Nice.
My darling,
Love it.
I'm so excited to speak with you, and I have to say, like, I'm just going to start off right here. The V. I love the V. When did you start to own the V?
So it's such a good question. When did I start using the V? So the V is not only my middle initial, but it's also the middle initial of my 3 other siblings and many of my cousins. And it's my mom's maiden name, which is Vinette. So it's kind of like a double last name in a way, even though my parents didn't encourage me to kind of use it to any extent. And at some point, you know, I went through confirmation as a Catholic kid. So I got a second kind of name. I can't even remember what it was though. But the V is that. It's my mom's maiden name, and I do like it.
I love you. First of all, Vinette, it's like it sounds like a lipstick line, like the best way. It's like so glam. And also, my jar, it's like, no, I don't know what to say lipstick line. It's the lipstick you go to Paris and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get one thing to take home with me. I'll like never forget Paris.
Like my Vinette.
My Vinette, yeah, it's my Vinette, like perfect matte. But
you're giving me an idea, because I feel like I'm constantly looking for like sort of the name of my store or my entity, you know. So Vinette is a really beautiful word. You're right.
Isn't it so beautiful how like what we always are, always have been, has always been showing up for us, and it takes like growing into it to be like, oh hey, it's always been fucking here. Also,
yeah, right.
The V is so great because it's very like it's like you're amping yourself up, like you're V Imbert, like you're V it, like.
Oh, you're so right. It's so true.
Love
Sometimes
that.
I like to think of it as like the 5th, like I'm like Marguerite the 5th.
That's
also
fun.
Cute. Yeah.
Also cute. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Well, my darling, I want the cult community to know and understand this. You have been called the next Terry Gross. I'm the cult leader of the next gen. So like, I love the next levels, but there's a real truth to this. So my darling, not only do you have this Terry Gross-esque ability to like open the floor, like, and also she does hers virtual as well. She's in Philly over the phone, and yet she creates the space where grown men cry. And you, my darling, you are the next, because you're doing it on Instagram Lives. You are completely at ease whilst the flow is happening. Well, as Sarah Armour, our astrologer, would say, chaos is the way. There are, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And yet you're so at ease, and you put your guests at ease. And your ability to create with ease continuously, which is the Brava way, is like continuous flow. You're doing these every day. How many interviews do you have, just for the record, so we know?
So I counted them maybe 2 weeks ago or a month ago, and it was into the 200s. So I started at the start of the pandemic, and I don't think I'll ever give it up. I love it so much.
I am so excited about this for you, because I feel like there is such a state that you enter, and I can't imagine how much you've learned and grown through being in that state of the true interviewer. So
you're so right. And thank you for doing all this research. I feel like it's just, you're such a pro. I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Oh, my darling. Well, that means a lot from you, because I was going to ask you about that. The wide stage that we do, like, are beholden to, like, Miss Terry Gross. Like, I do know that her interview process is, like, a lot of research, I see your research, and also I see the speed with which you're meeting people. are you like a super fast reader? Like, how do you take in information and like prepare?
That's such a good, so what I do, so I have every night before I go to sleep, I I have these sheets, which I just printed from this awesome girl on the internet, debraho.com, and I can share with you, but I love them. So anyway, right before each interview, I will have the hour before is blocked off as prep. And now that I'm really immersed in my finalizing cookbook, it's like I'm immersed in as a writer right now. So my prep has gone down most times to a half hour.
Cool.
But in terms of my process, I just follow my curiosity through the internet.
I love it. That's how I do. We're very aligned. I do the same thing. I just really indulge in the person. Like, I just get into them. And exactly, like, what I'm most drawn to is probably what I'm going to want to talk to them about.
Yeah. I prep more when I feel it's a topic that, like, I interviewed this one woman who, Lauren Napier, who had made a claim against Instagram. She said that the verification process, she was suggesting that it was like a racist process.
Wow.
And so for that was like a full hour of like intense research as if I was like in a job, because I wanted to get it right. And I felt like it wasn't coming from instinct. It needed to come more from like a news space.
I love that. Yeah. So it's like every person is going to like require a different you to show up in that way.
So right. So true.
Okay, darling. So, I run into this trouble because I do a lot of different styles of interviews. So today, the Be Brava Live, like, these are more like coaching conversations. I also have like a more strict, like, interview style called Do You Believe in Brava? The whole point is to find out if they believe in Brava. That brings me to my next point. I'm constantly trying to like swivel the conversation to like bolster my email marketing campaign. It's a relationship between agenda and allowance in an interview, and like allowing what needs to come up and having like your like cue cards of like, I would like to hit these points, or like even to expunge upon that. Like, if you're like, I actually kind of want to like get into this part that maybe they don't want to get into. So yeah, allowance versus agenda when you come into the interview sphere. How do you work with that?
The first point that came to mind based on your question was that there is an art to an interview, because you can absolutely waste, like, part of my process is culling these people. So I'm like booked out till mid-December with interviews, right? Daily. Yeah. 7 days a week. It's people that I come to through instinct and I reach out to because of my own curiosity. So there's that aspect of like, everybody I choose is unique, and there's the perspective that I want to sort of dive into. But you can absolutely speak with someone who is, transgender, Black, female identified, lives in Minnesota, and you can talk to them about their marketing career and get into none of the stuff that is actually interesting, or that like, made you called you to them. So I do find with race, for instance, like, that's an area where I feel aware before the conversation that I could like waste this conversation, or I could ask trickier, more uncomfortable questions. And I can't say I'm like the most pro with that, but that's one thing. And then another, in terms of allowance versus agenda, I come with questions. If I'm in like a lower energy state, I often will just absolutely give in to the energy that's right here. Like, I will be,
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. And that makes sense. It's like sometimes that is like what's required of us in life, is like the showing up and like being in that almost like subspace of like, all right, you're going to take me on a ride now, because if I am gearing the ship, like, it might just be a push that's like not going to feel good for anybody.
100%.
But I love this, darling, because I think what you do so brilliantly, and it's a real Brava Baby trick that I need all Brava Babies on board to understand how to do this, and I think it's a real aspirational thing as a human in general, is like create that safe space for connection, and then the harder questions can come in. So like, I see you asking those more challenging questions that might threaten someone's ego if you were just like blare it out at them, but you actually create that engagement that I see you, we see each other, and then you can start to open doors into maybe the question that would be harder to just show up with.
I feel like I was raised in a family that was extremely judgmental, even though they won't really talk about themselves that way. Yeah. But in my nature, and like my boyfriend, in my nature and what I'm drawn to are actually extremely open-minded, non-judgment. Like, that's who I am in my heart, in my nature. So like, I get to be my absolute self with people. And so it's not often that I'm like judging somebody. And so we can talk about anything.
I love that. And I see that doorway of perception open in you. And I really, really do truly feel that. Even you saying, which I so res with, like that, you know, with astrology, like you're like, it could be. Like, I mean, I talked to Sarah, our mutual best,
Yeah.
like for life. Like, and she's an astrologer. She's brilliant. And 99% now of the time, I'm like, oh my God, it's so true. And then if I found out that astrology was fake, don't kill me from the internet, all my astrologer friends. I'd be like, okay. Like, I'm so ambiguous and so like open, you know, I just put me in any situation and I will do the processes, and then like I will be the test tube baby, you know.
Yeah. In my own personal interactions, I woke up recently, like last week, to the idea of, you know, if you're endlessly adaptable, which I spent like, you know, a lot of my life doing.
Yes.
And it's helpful in scenarios. Like, let's say you have to rebuild a woman's website and she's like from Hoboken and has a certain way of talking and has a certain way of thinking. And you can like get into that and you know how to be there with her.
Yes.
There is an aspect to which you can walk away from that conversation and feel there's some loss when you are just adapting exactly to like who the person is that you're with, right? Yes. So I'm waking up a little bit more to like consent, like what I consent to in interactions on like a subtle subconscious level. It's like with people like my sister, it's like people I love, but they have totally different vibrations and their attitudes and perspectives on life are absolutely different. And just by engaging in a conversation, I'm consenting. And then I might leave the conversation wounded. So I'm getting more like attuned to that kind of, you know, can you speak when something's uncomfortable?
That's so brilliant, and I so res. Like I'm from, you know, a very judgmental family as well. I love them so much. Our values are very much aligned, and yet and still, especially in this moment of like cult ideology, there's conversations that I just fucking avoid, you know, like, and I think that idea of consenting with our ownership of who we are while we're able to be with people and not feeling like we need to just like become the chameleon in order to get love, which is what the child does. Like that's what we probably learned very early on, which all of us do learn to be like the family so that we get love from them, because that's very natural human behavior. So I love this this idea of owning consent on these like micro levels that are these internal shifts that just help you feel more who the fuck the Imbert the fuck is.
Amen. 100%.
I love this, darling. Okay, you want to hear, because these Be Brava lives really are about putting that V into our lives, right? Being that Be Brava extra level of ourselves. What feels like your edge when you look at your interview process, looking at the journey that you've been on and like how it's evolved you and maybe affected your interactions, which I'm hearing like in person with your friends and family when you're not in that role. What's your edge right now? And what are you trying to develop or grow into right now?
I mean, all of the journeys I'm on right now feel like it's just me competing against myself. Like, that's just what's happening. Like, realistically, I'm about to finish a book. There's so many steps. It's a grueling process. I don't recommend it. It's hard. I'm going to do the next one. Like, it's just these goals that we each have. Like, you know, you can call them brass rings, whatever it is. The things that, like, we feel, you know, we want to do. Yeah.
Yes.
They're a big part. So like a lot of people will get into conversations with me about like what I want this interview series to become, what I'm heading into. And I always have the instinct to like protect it, just like as like it is exactly what it is. It's
yes. I love that. I love that too, because it's a paradigm shift to be like, I am letting this project and this work evolve me rather than me being like, this is where it's going by this date. And I so res with that, because I feel like intuitively I've trusted that just do the things I'm passionate about. As you said, even the way you research, right? Do the things you're passionate about, follow that with your full commitment, and it will show up and teach you what you need to know and learn and see the next steps.
But it's also interesting, like you asked the question, what's your edge? And I think about the different like bodies of information I've like, you know, I've gone into with these interviews. I mean, I've interviewed a woman who identifies as bipolar, a woman who identifies as borderline personality, a woman who leads a community for PMDD. So there's like a mental health challenge that went on for sure. I feel like race was like part of an edge through this series. let's see, sometimes it's like I'm interviewing somebody and I have to push myself when I'm doing the research to like see why this person like spiritually arrived for me, and it's always clear. Like
Wow.
every single time it's clear. Like it's so rare, by the way, that I have an interview and I get off and I'm like, I didn't like that. Like most often I walk back into the house and I say to my boyfriend, like, I loved her. You know, that's like what happens all the time.
And this is the thing. I think that this is it's similar to coaching, because when you're interviewing or when you're coaching, you're looking for what's interesting. Your job as an interviewer is to be like, what's interesting here? And so you fucking find it, right? And I think that's the thing. Whenever we're bored in interactions with people on any level, it's actually our lack of coming to the table with engagement and curiosity. Because the most boring, look how fascinating to meet a boring person, you know, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I love that you have used your interviews as a way of coaching. I mean, I wish there was more virtual therapy where people could sit in on therapy sessions or coaching sessions.
I agree.
It's a great idea. I'm glad you're doing it.
Oh my God, there's only one season of couples therapy on Showtime, and that's a blast. That's a travesty for humanity.
Exactly. So I'm glad you're picking up the torch and continuing.
Thank you, my darling. And I think it is interesting because I don't know, like for me, like the thing when you think about like the through line that you're seeing a lot of mental health stuff coming forward. For me, the through line in all the work that I do and all the work that I'm drawn to, whether it is an astrologer or a comedian, like you know, The Bachelor, it's always like the human psychological unfolding, right? And that's for those of us who are bent that way. It's like this vast landscape of like different ways to express that, even like through your cookbook. So like actually thinking about cooking right now, how does cooking and interviewing, like, is there any connection that you feel between those two?
That's a great question. I mean, my mind is just going to the more practical aspects of running these series, like blurry. Like I'm wondering, am I blurry right now? Like I feel like being an interviewer, you deal with like on Instagram Live, you are like, I mean, you know how it is. It's like all sorts of things. It's like somebody's audio is going in and out, or like somebody's blurry, or you can tell somebody feels obligated, or there are all sorts of things. I think it's really brave that people say yes to these interviews. Like and at the same time, I want to make the point that like there's an interview is such an ennobling thing. Like it ennobles people. Like it allows them to feel, you know, that they have a platform to tell their story and what's going on for them.
Yes.
So it's a great thing to offer people. And like
I love that.
One of my dreams is that just more people would be doing interviews, and like,
yes,
because I love them.
It's so true. And I think also like as someone who does interviews as well, I will say that it's ennobling, and it's also awesome as the interviewer. It's like you're giving them a gift. So someone you admire, you're reaching out to them, like in this situation, and you're giving them something, but also it's a way to connect with like your expanders, right? So people that you're like, oh my gosh, how would I ever get in a room with this person? Interviewing them is a wonderful way to do that. So I think totally. it just opens doors for you.
It totally does. I love your sparkling screen, by the way.
Thank you, my darling. It's a felt. It's the summertime glow. It's very Ariana.
It's so, so, so nice. And then to your point about cooking, I mean, I think like the spirit of cooking and interviewing is there's like, at least for me, there's like an essential aspect of spontaneity and improvisation. Like there just is. I feel like the world is too scared and skittish around so many different things.
Yeah.
And really we have a lot inside of us that can just come out spontaneously. That's my feeling.
I love to hear that, because I have to say, like, personally, like, I love cooking for myself, and I'm always like, people would think I'm weird. Like, I make everything I make is very, very creative, and like my family's like very good cooks, you know what I mean? And I'm like Italian, so it's like I know that they would just be like, no. So what's your experience of being like intuitive in the kitchen? Like, how does that work for you?
Well, one section I'm considering taking out of the book, it's an 8-week journey, so there's content every day.
Yes.
And there's one day's challenge is kind of like, you know, there's this strong sense of like cuisines when it comes to cooking. Like people feel that like that's the thing they don't know. There's all kinds of stuff that the regular person feels they don't know about cooking.
Yeah.
And that's what like drives me to write the book is I'm just like, you have no idea. You know everything you need to know. All of it is common sense. All these rules were created by humans. Like it's simple. It's like you're dealing with heat
every day. Like you eat every single day.
You eat every day. Like you're fine. Like you know how to deal with this stuff. But the section I'm considering taking out is like cuisines. Like, should we mix them? I mean, I'm thinking of your Italian family, and it's like, do they want to see your like Tex-Mex Italian dish? Like, is there something grotesque about that? Especially if it's not like professionally executed. But cooking, I mean, a lot of what I've done with my career is like, it's almost like finishing school. Like when you teach yoga for 5 years, you teach meditation for 5 years, you are a professional chef for 5 years. These are lifelong skills. And like your life is just always made better by the fact that you know them.
Absolutely.
So I think, I mean, interviewing, when I'm in a social setting and or I'm talking to my therapist or whatever, like one of my challenges used to be like pre-pandemic is like, one of the modes I would get into in like a party space is just like, and my mom does the same thing. It's asking somebody a lot of questions and being very engaged and like getting a lot of like, you know, being an engaging person and getting a lot of insight by asking questions of a person. So whether I think interviewing is a skill everyone should have, I think it is, because I feel like people do struggle to be social and have engaging conversations.
And this is the thing, is that, my darling, like this is the thing, when you're curious, you are turned on, you're lit, and you're showing up as your best self. And so it's really like, I do a lot of leadership presence training, especially as my alter ego, Lucia, she's like a leadership trainer. And like the presence of all comes down to that. It's the presence is actually being present for someone else. And then your best qualities are naturally there. Like we aren't meant to walk around walking selfie sticks, examining if we look a certain way, but people think of performance that way. And it's actually performance is getting out of your own way so that you're naturally can be there.
100%. That so resonates this week. I feel like, I mean, I went through about 5 days of like real sadness and like, you know, it's not new to me. And I think a lot of people were experiencing it and it kind of lifted a little bit like yesterday. But some of the interviews that I did during that time were so like nourishing. And there's something about when you feel like I'm not at the bandwidth to like put on a performance. I like basically can just show up. Like that's what I can give right now, where you're like at your most human. And, it's cool. I mean, I love the aesthetics. I love that you have like a very like dramatic aesthetic, like, you know, way of interviewing. And, you know, that's why I posted that beautiful picture of you with like the sequins in the back. And that's so fun. And I wouldn't mind, honestly, having a few more costumes. I
recommend.
You know, we can show up just whatever too.
I love that. And I think that is like, for me, that is so, the ego death is actually not hiding. Like ego death is being like, here in all capacities, you know, like, and so it's very interesting to me to look at like the Kanye's, like these big personalities and how everyone says, oh, they're egomaniacs. And there's something about it. Yes, it could be egomania. There's also the flip of like, maybe this person is so like not identified with needing to be a certain thing for you that they can just be, here I am now, and here I am now, and like think what you want about me.
Totes.
So
I'm
cool.
so curious. Am I allowed to ask you questions? Because I have like one or two.
Literally, there's no rules. Yeah.
Okay.
What are your questions?
So, are you Sarah Armour's coach?
So, Lucia, my alter,
yeah,
and her do like coaching back and forth. We do like swapsies, so we coach each other.
Love it.
And then as Brava, Sarah's like basically, okay, there's multiple levels to this shit, right? Yeah. So as Brava, I coach her mostly on live streams, and I just like dumb the fuck out of her publicly because she like needs public shaming to like do the shit. So it's like I'm like kind of the bulldog behind Lucia's like sweet soft coaching, which in general, like I as a coach, like I work with both. Like if you have a coaching session with Brava, like Lucia is probably gonna tee it up, figure out what we want to work on, be nice and gentle, and then I'm gonna come in with some like more balls to the wall, like fantastical uppers.
Love it.
So, and then also recently, so our different Sarah Armour is like a channel of the moon. So I started doming the moon. So now I'm coaching Sarah channeling the moon on lives.
Do you know this woman Ziwa, Z-I-W-E?
No.
Look her up. She has like very aggressive interviews where she like heads on, like she takes people that have been like canceled
Oh, that's my work.
She just had kind of like a breakthrough. Like she's been like on the cover of like, I don't know what it's been, but she's had stuff happen recently.
Well, I'm gonna indulge.
But she like interviewed like Allison Roman after she made like the racist comments about Chrissy Teigen, and then like really asks like, how many Black people do you know? All right, she like goes through like Black people of the past and like has you define them. It's really confrontational and really interesting.
That's awesome.
ZIW.
I will look for her. I will
Yeah.
definitely look for her. But I feel like I'm a cancel person whisperer. I really do, because I think we relate on like this non-judgment. I think canceled is the new excommunicated. I'm not a fan of canceling people. It's the most dehumanizing word like that is present at this moment.
Yeah.
And like you're like standing for inclusion, and yet you're like, we could just cancel people for their opinion. So like, not you, people. So I don't res with the whole movement. And I also feel like part of being in this space of like a cult leader who's like fucked up is I can like welcome in people's fucked upness.
That's what you are. You're a cult leader of the fucked up.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta be fucked up to join my cult. But like
Sarah just joined.
Yay, Sarah's here. Speak of the devil. What ways do you feel like? In what ways do you feel like you can disarm people? Or I know you said you're naturally non-judgmental. Do you notice yourself doing or being in a certain way that helps people just recognize that? So they're like, I can tell this lady. And it might be something you've done.
I don't know how I do it, but I've been getting the comment for so many years that I make people feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my sister, like I think of my sister, I mean, my boyfriend would say she doesn't make people feel comfortable, but he just took his headphones off. Like Liz, like my sister is like the most practical. Like she will sit with you and be like your social worker. She'll be like, okay, so what's the deal? Like she's so honest and like there and with you that I feel like I have enough of that in my eyes that I do that for people.
Reminds me of like Paris's sister, because I feel like maybe we talked about like, you were like, oh, I feel like Paris Hilton. Like Paris Hilton's sister.
Yes, in the documentary totally gives her like real talk. Yeah,
because she's logical, and it's almost like a doctor where she's like, okay, like what are your panic attacks about? And it's because it's so practical, it's like disarmingly you're able to open up.
So Nikki. Yes, and I do have some of my proudest moments are like if somebody, like I had a guy who was like tripping on like mushrooms and like fainting and like and I was not in my full sober consciousness, right? Yeah. But I took my arms underneath him, and it was like, what I remember is that all the women of my ancient past came into my body, and I was almost like a nurse doctor, witch doctor, and I like revived him, and I was looking him in the eyes and walking him down the hallway, and I was like, look at me and breathe, look at me. Like we were so glued in, and he recovered. And like I truly believe that he could have like died if like all the ancestors didn't like gather into this like uber practical person.
I love this. It's like that's a moment where you showed yourself who you are, and you needed that man to like show up as that little like flag to be like, who the fuck am I? Oh, okay, I'm the person who can be here with you and like be so present that I'm able to tap into all this energy.
Totally.
So as we think of that, like really feeling into that energy right now of like when you felt all those ancestors coming through you, and this V Imbert and like the fifth and like all that energy that's like collecting in you right now, if you were to channel it and shit it out, where do you feel like what do you think that energy is giving out to the world?
I think with that energy, I could be like a death doula. Like I'm a birth doula.
Yes.
I'm a birth doula, so I'm trained as a doula to support women with birth. But recently, this death doula program in Hawaii has come my way, sort of. And I'm on tight deadlines with my own goals right now. Yeah. But I think like, as Sarah said, it's a great question. And I think that what that energy like leads to is supporting people through like the hardest moment, which is like when we're saying goodbye to this life. I mean, for someone like Sarah, who believes in like infinite lives and so on, she probably still thinks it's a profound moment. But for, people who, aren't sure, that's a big moment.
And yeah, it's a profound moment no matter what your belief, because no matter what, it is a portal into the unknown. So no one, even if you're the most religious person, the most spiritual person, it is a portal moment. I love this. You're like the DMT, but like, because DMT is released when you're born and when you die. But like, I feel like you're like the DMT like cradle. You're like almost like the cup that's offering the DMT, and you're like, here, my darling. And it feels from my experience of you, from like the little that we've encountered, like I would love to have you squeezing my hand in both those moments, or like receiving my squeeze at both those moments, because I feel like what we spoke about right now is really coming clear. It's like this calm, as Sarah said yesterday, as the moon, the chaos is the way. So it's like calm in that chaos and like being able to be present with it. What's been your journey? Did you, you said more of a reactive personality. Have you always had this ability to be there with people, or is that something that's like gained through wisdom and time? How did that happen?
Well, what it does bring up for me is like with writing this cookbook, like I truly believe there are aspects of like being good at cooking that have to do with being calm. And it's really like practical, but it's like you can tell if there are 3 people in the kitchen and the fire alarm goes off because like the pan is too smoky, you can tell who's cooked the longest based on who doesn't freak out.
You know what I love about that? My brother runs restaurants. His wife is an ER doctor, and they totally get each other. So it totally makes sense. Like,
yeah, a lot of
it is calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah, we got a plan. I think like we arrive here with everything we need to know, and I need to tell myself this because sometimes I'm like, how am I going to survive, and what is life, you know? But we do. I think we arrive here, like I'm sure Sarah would agree, with like everything we need to just like to thrive. And where it came from, I think I got a lot of my confidence by like my parents just not knowing a lot of what I was up to, and just kind of growing up really fast in Manhattan.
I love it. Also, well, first of all, I'm from Jersey, so we didn't even connect, like we didn't even acknowledge that we're both East
Oh
Coast.
yeah, we have so much. I mean, I was in Westfield, New Jersey, till I was 10, and then we moved to Manhattan.
Man, I was from Montclair, New Jersey. So my darling,
Montclair's so fancy and beautiful.
Well, it is now. Sarah and I grew up together. It was like more socioeconomically diverse, as they say. Now it's just yups, which is
Isn't that where Colbert is, Montclair?
Yes, my mom went to a dinner party. She was like, I played it so cool. And then her like sassy neighbor was less like arms akimbo. He's like, there's no playing it cool, Bridget. You're cool or you're not. So I guess she didn't play it cool because that was him calling her out on like not being cool with Colbert. But yeah, it's very fancy now. But like when we grew up, it was very diverse. So I think that like informs a lot of Sarah and I. I was saying to Sarah, like every now and then she'll like channel a lacrosse bro, and it's just like dead on impression of like an 18-year-old at Montclair High School.
Oh my God, I have to hear that.
Like whenever she's like, yo, bro. Okay, Dar, we're going to bring this to a close. I know you're a very busy woman. You're cooking. You are writing a freaking book, which I cannot wait to indulge in. You're interviewing people daily. You also have a boyfriend in the background. How fun is that?
Yeah.
So as we close this conversation, has anything come up for you that feels like something that you want to take forward and like bring more into your life, an intention and commitment that you want to close with?
I don't know. I feel like called to just give like a thanks to Sarah. I mean, Haley introduced me to Sarah, and like it was one of those kind of like just showing up here and there. This last Moonual we had, were you at this? Yeah,
yes,
of course.
I was brought.
We were chatting.
The moon, yeah.
So it just, I mean, it's like kind of like someone said it during that thing. It's like, you know, it doesn't even matter. You just keep flowing, and then the things like you end up showing up to the things that are just like there for you right in the moment. You're like, it is your tribe because you're there, and it's like it's just this. She has such a funny way about her, and it started because I interviewed her. That's how we started talking, and it's not even like I've been to too many of her things, but you're so lovely. I'm so happy I got to meet you. Thank you for doing it. It was so fun to get a message being like, hey, do you want to you know? And I feel like with the book, I'm going to be doing more stuff like this, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, I think you're on something amazing. I love watching your interviews. Everyone go check you out. How can they get obsessed? So let the community know. How do we get obsessed with you? Like, get into all the things. Plug
the way they get obsessed?
Yes.
The way they get obsessed is to browse through my IGTV. I mean, I enjoy being in the interviews, but I think it's more like a discovery space for new people. So go to people's, like, click on their name, like whoever I'm interviewing, go on their page, figure out what they're up to, because these are all these little subcultures from literally all over the world, like illustrator in Jordan, costume designer in Syria, jewelry maker in Kentucky, like people all over the world who I have curated and picked out. So they are fun based on what you need like transgender therapists. They're all over the place, but they're cool people to check out. So
you gotta go see that winemaker in Sonoma. He's like, you're right. He is the mucho mucho amor of winemakers.
Yeah, I hope he watched that. Yeah, no,
I love.
I told him after, I'm like, I hope I can think of you like a mentor.
Oh my gosh, my darling! I just want to go sip wine with you there one day. Let's manny that with Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah, come to
Yeah.
Sonoma. So, my darling, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a delightful pleasure. I truly do feel like the stars, as Paris would have us say, like the stars are. What's her song?
Na, 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 na. Even though the stars.
Something like that, my darling. Like the internet has served us well, and okay, one thing that's good about 2020 is IG lives have been very good for us in 2020. You're not allowed to say anything positive about 2020, but my darling, it's been really cool to be able to like psychically connect with.
Stars are blind. Stars are blind. She's so
blind.
right. Of course she knows that.
The stars are blind. But it's, yeah, I think it's very true. Like Sarah and I reconnected in 2020 mostly over the internet, and like the connection is so real. So I think it is very cool that what you're doing is this modern day Terry Gross, where you're like just following what fucking sparks you, trusting that on an intuitive level, and it is leading you into fascinating conversations, and also like being a doula of life and death. One quick question: do you do weddings? Can you also do the birth, my wedding, and then my death? Okay. Well, I do weddings. I'm actually certified or whatever. It took 5
I'll send people to you. So for weddings, you do like coaching around weddings.
Well, I do. I've never actually been hired. For some reason, people don't want Be Brava at their wedding. Maybe because I'm like the star of every show. But so I did it online. It literally takes you 5 minutes to get approved, and then you get this thing in the internet. It's not even in the mail. It's that on a fish. They just send you a thing.
Oh, to be like a minister?
Yeah, I'm a minister.
I did that at one point. Like I was technically that, but I never, like I did the certificate, but I never did it. I don't think that's my calling, but it's so good to know that you are that.
Yeah, I have a chapel in Vegas, the Sure Thing Chapel. They're adorable.
What?
I'm on the roster. Like you can get an Elvis wedding, you can get a Brava wedding, but no one's bought it yet. So get on it, booze. Be the first.
So, but people have to be physically there to have a Brava wedding, or you do them virtually?
It's a great question. We put out the offer pre all this. I could go there though. I could have a little cage, you know.
Oh, like you would go there and the bride and groom wouldn't?
Or just a micro wedding. You know, I feel like you could have 2 people and they can touch because hopefully they're going to be touching a lot, you know. So marriage is about touching each other.
I'll do all my weddings with you, says Sarah.
Yes. Shoot all the weddings over. So it's like, you know, it's like, oh my God, we got to get married before the baby pops out. Head them over my way. We can do it over Zoom or IG Live right here.
There's that energy around weddings and marriage is changing so much. I don't even know how to comment on it.
Well, that's really true. I mean, people are going to keep making babies whether they intend to or not, but are they going to keep getting married? That's a great question. I think the stars are blind and we'll have to find out.
Let's see, what did she say? We're going to have a creative commune in Sonoma too. Yes.
Oh, yeah. You need to get on the text thread. Sarah and I just DM each other Zillow houses, and last night it was all estates of Napa.
Oh my God, good for you guys.
That's called manifesting, booze. Okay, Madar. Okay. I'm going to let you go. I'm really excited for you, and I feel like this intention to just like stay in that flow, stay open to what's coming next. You're in it, boo. You are in it.
You are too. It's so fun to meet you.
So fun to meet you.
Do you want me to follow you at Lucia too, or should I just follow you here?
Follow me on both.
Okay.
Because she does more like boring shit, but you know, it's more full expansive.
Yeah, I like that you have multiple like humans, like you as you call them, alter egos. Which
actually, that is a great segue because I started this saying, wait, you know, I'm not going to make this about my email marketing campaign, but this is a great segue. So I have a virtual, really exciting, expansive retreat on October 30th where you create your own alter ego. So if you want to join, you can be.
That is so freaking fun. I would love to join. Is it a day-long virtual?
It's 2 to 5 p.m. and it's meditation and practices. It's really, I like to make these retreats as solo exploratory as possible. So you're not staring at a Zoom for 3 hours. You're going off, doing your thing, coming back and connecting. Sarah's went to all of them. She'll be there. And then for all the Brava babies on board for Rapture November 3rd, 2020, we are bringing Bravadence home on Earth. So it's going to be Bravadence on Earth. Rapture Day, and to prepare for that I have a Rapture Ready Program, so you can go to TaliaBrava.com and press work with Talia
Okay.
and you'll see it. And it's all of my virtual retreats, 4 of them, a live retreat, a one-on-one coaching session, all to like prepare yourself to be this new avatar for the
I
new.
love it.
I'm so
Oh, look who
excited.
just joined.
Oh yes, Desi, hello.
No, I saw that at the end of Sarah's email. I actually think Sarah's writing those emails very well. I enjoyed reading it to the end, and I spotted you because you had already DM'd me about interviewing, and I was like, I got a chance to like learn about you in her email. Loved it.
Sarah is one for the witches. She's this like true community supporter. I love. Okay, well, this is all. We're also interconnected right now. I like honestly just like I wish we were like. This is the moment when I wish we were all live because I feel like we would just like take our shirts off and like do a little like weird like hula dance moment just to say like I am.
I love it. I think someone should do something creative for Halloween. I mean, I wanted to do sort of a virtual trick or treat where people could come trick or treat with me, but I think like pop in on lives. But you can't do it with 3 people. I feel like it'd be fun, right? You can't do lives with 3 people.
I know you can't. They need to work on that. Hey, Graham, I know we're stalking us. We have a tip for you. Wouldn't it be nice if they like were like, yeah, we're stealing all your data and like here's just like we know what you want, sparkling water constantly, like, and they were actually just giving a little bit back by just like giving exactly like giving us all little presents of exactly what we want. It's like if you're gonna steal our data, like give us something too.
Well, they give us like the whole program.
Yeah.
For free. They're like, take
also,
the whole
like,
Instagram, take all of
I
it.
love how we're like posting right now because it kind of looks like we're a 2-headed being.
Yeah. Did you like that I drew our bodies?
Wait, I didn't see it.
On the story. I think that's something people should do more often on your stories. You should doodle.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cute.
Because it actually is like, you have to, like, it shows whether you can, like, draw or not. Like, I mean, I tried it twice when I was filling in our bodies.
I can make
like,
hearts.
It's fun because I'm doing my own graphic design for the cookbook, and I realized that, like, every hand has, like, their own stroke, and, like, it's kind of cool.
That's beautiful. You know what
It's
I
all
started watching?
doodles.
I started watching a crap television show, Dropping Dollars. Horrible television show, but like delicious on Netflix last night. It's just rich people spending money. It was wonderful. And Wiz Khalifa gets painted by this artist who's like a famous artist. Everyone probably sees it and is like, yeah, that guy's super famous. And I don't know his name. Avanti, or I don't know what his name is, but he draws Wiz Khalifa and he does it like intuitively and it's amazing. You got to go watch it just for that. So watch the Wiz Khalifa episode of Dropping Dollars on Netflix. You know you need to know, and he does it like it's like he's like a Jackson Pollock, but like he says it's like CrossFit Jackson Pollock in like a leather jacket. It's very cool. And I just love artists and their flow, you know.
Wait, say the name of the show one more time.
Dropping Dollars.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna send you that thing, the Ziwa thing.
That sounds much more informative and important. I'm also just excited.
No, this thing sounds great that you described. I'm just gonna show you this girl before I leave, so you can just get like ZWEF. I'm so sorry I got her name wrong, but she's fun. She's do you recognize her? Anyway,
I love. I can already tell.
she's like doing something very different. I like her a lot. Like in terms of interviews, it's like it's worth seeing.
This is it. This is fucking it. We have to keep looking not at the like no offense to like the last gen. We have to keep looking to our peers because the structures are changing completely. What it means to be a woman boss is like completely fucking different. The new her Instagram is like boss. I'm going to say her name incorrectly, but she has a show with Katie Couric, and she is the new marketing director of Netflix. She's like 8 foot tall Black woman, like so fierce and like wears sequins and always has in the corporate world. And now she's finally like, yeah, like now I'm also like the marketing director of Netflix. And
I love find her. B-O, what do you think her thing is? B-O-S-S?
It's Boz. It's Boz.
Whatever. Send it to me when you find it.
I will. I totally will. And
okay, this has been so fun. You're such a
so
fun
much
lady.
fun. What a delay. So okay, so much love. Shooting out all the good vibes. Thank you. And to all my Bravadence, thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.